Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. And we had our first preseason game this past Saturday. I was super excited. I was able to go to the game. I got great seats right behind the end zone, and man, it was finally fun to see some football in person again, live, like in an actual game setting. Right. So today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just be recapping the preseason week one. Me, Steven, Tyler, and Alex did a whole live stream about like our own thoughts about it. So if you want to really go in more in depth from like the film and from like the overall team breakdown side, go check that video out. But I'm going to be giving, like I said, more of my analytics based thoughts and like some of the notes I took down. And then I'm going to be previewing what to expect for week 2 against the Niners, some of the interesting stats I saw with them, and then what to expect going into this Sunday's game with the Niners. And we're going to be having a couple joint practices, which unfortunately I won't be able to see, but I'm excited to see what comes out of it. Staley has said multiple times that the joint practices and the scrimmages within the team are going to be what resembles more of a game situation than the actual preseason. So these joint practices are going to be pretty important. And the Niners do have a pretty good team on offense and on defense. So without further ado, let's rock. And let's go straight into recapping the game from Saturday against the Rams. Okay, so as you can see here, what we got is the preseason week 1 team tiers. I put this on my Twitter, but I'm going to be going over what it exactly means, right? So what this is exactly showing is every single team's offensive and defensive EPA. So you really want to be in this top right quadrant, which the Chargers are. Like they're right above average when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, and they're definitely above average when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. So the x-axis, the horizontal axis, is looking at the offensive EPA per play, and the y-axis is the defensive EPA per play. If you don't know what EPA is, it stands for expected points added, and it is the best way to measure. It is one of the best ways to measure offensive and defensive efficiency. It's basically saying that not all yards are created equal. So if an offense gets 3 yards on 4th and 2, that produces a higher EPA than 3 yards on 4th and 7, right? Because obviously you're converting a first down versus not converting a first down. So that's what EPA does. So just based on the graph, you can see right here that the Chargers are right in that top right quadrant, which is good to see. Like I said before, above average offense, slightly above average defense. And if we look where the Rams are kind of like right about average offensively, and they were below average defensively, which is good to see for the Chargers. Now, if we break it down by just looking at the offense, right? The x-axis is going to be EPA per pass, and the y-axis is going to be EPA per rush. Again, you're going to want to be in that top right quadrant. Chargers, they weren't too bad. Like they were above average when it came to passing the ball on this past week, and they were below average when it came to rushing the ball. But like I said before, it is better to be in this bottom right quadrant where you're above average passing and below average rushing than to be in this top left quadrant, which is above average rushing but below average passing. So it's good to see that Chase Daniel, Easton Stick had a good day throwing the ball. And, we're going to get into some of the pass catchers like Josh Palmer, Tyron Johnson, Guyton, Austin Proehl a little bit later. So again, Chargers did a pretty good job on offense this past weekend. They averaged about like a 0.11 EPA per pass, which is good. And they had a negative EPA per rush, but mostly every single team, except for the exception of like the Ravens and the Titans, will always have a negative EPA when it comes to the actual season. So I wouldn't really worry too much about the rushing EPA, but the passing EPA, it's good to see that it's above 0, number 1, and then above average, number 2. Now, how did the Chargers do defensively on Saturday? Well, they actually, like, watching them in person, they were flying around. It did seem like a lot of the backups and the depth players were playing with a ton of energy. Like when I talk about the secondary, Keemon Hall and John Brandon immediately come to mind as 2 guys that, made impact plays when their name was called, right? Keemon Hall had the peanut punch that unfortunately the Chargers didn't recover, but John Brandon had that insane one-handed pick in the red zone to finish off what was a really good goal line stand started by Forrest Merrill's tackle for loss. And honestly, like when I was watching that live and I saw the bootleg come around, I kind of had deja vu from the Broncos game winner from Drew Lock, where he scrambled out the slot corner, like he showed that he was going to go and tackle Lock, which left the slot receiver open. So Keemon Hall, I think it was Keemon Hall, he did make a play to go and tackle. Who was it? It was I'm forgetting the name of the Rams quarterback. Whatever. He made a play to go tackle the quarterback, which left the slot receiver open, but Brandon made a really good play on the ball. It was Duck Hodges. I just remembered. Yeah, he made a really good play on the ball and intercepted Duck Hodges and really stopped the Rams offense there. So Chargers defensive wise, right about average when it came to EPA per pass. But I will say that the EPA per pass was skewed just a little bit because the Broncos had an insane day on defense. We saw, if you didn't see, Patrick Surtain had a pick six in his first game, which is not obviously a great sight for Chargers fans. Obviously super happy for him. You don't want to really wish bad on any player, any prospect. So great job for him. But I will say they did skew the average so that it's more rightward than it should be. But, it is good to see that the Chargers are right about average, and they should be getting to above average when they get some of the starters back. And they were above average when it came to stopping the run, which is obviously a very good sight, seeing that Linval Joseph, Justin Jones, Jerry Tillery, and Cortez Broughton all sat out. So pretty much Christian Covington was the only projected 53-man roster guy that actually played. And finally, the thing that everyone cares the most about, the offensive line. So we're going to be evaluating it using PFF's grading system. So you can see, the Chargers are right about here, below average when it came to running the run blocking grade, which is kind of expected. Like, you can't really run the ball when you don't have your starters in. I thought Rashawn Slater and Brendan Hymas had a couple of good plays. If you go check out Daniel Jeremiah's Twitter, he put a couple of clips on there where they looked excellent, like in a combo block, getting upfield, which is really nice to see. But they were slightly above average when it came to pass blocking grade. But again, if you look down here, Arizona kind of skews the average down a little bit. So I feel like the average would be in this area right here if it wasn't for the Cardinals' putrid 13 pass blocking grade. Like, I don't even know how you could get that low, but that's where the Cardinals were. Okay, so we just went over some of the Chargers, the recap from yesterday, from this past weekend. I'm going to be sharing my screen again, and we are going to go a little bit more in depth also. So these are my post-game thoughts. So I said I thought that special teams were still a mess, which they were. They had I think 4 penalties on special teams, which is still, really, really bad. I'm going to be getting into this really soon. Up next, Staley uses 2 high safeties. I've talked about this all off season. Staley's going to be showing 2 high safeties on at least 70 to 80% of his plays. And when I was watching the safeties on times where I focused on the secondary, it was Gilman and Outerly in that 2 high look, just parallel to each other, which is a great sign to see. And Josh Palmer, Buddy had 4 catches on the first drive, and I was not expecting that. And it seems like he is the go-to guy for Chase Daniel. Now, if we compare Chase Daniel and Easton Stick, I know Easton Stick had a higher passer rating, but I'm going to remind you again, passer rating is one of the worst metrics to evaluate a quarterback because, like I said before, it takes into account that 3 yards are equal on 4th and 2 and 4th and 7 when that is not the case, which is why Chase Daniel had a 0.155 EPA and Easton Stick had a negative 0.024. Now you might look at the box score and be like, he didn't have an incompletion. But again, EPA is a proven metric that is stable and predictive from year to year, from game to game, and it doesn't fluctuate that much. And again, Chase Daniel's PFF grade was a 63.5, while Easton Stick's was a 62.8. Now, I included this real quick because I know people were talking about the offense line, like Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton didn't have the best games, which I agree didn't look like when I watched the game again that they had some of the best days. But I actually went back and I took a look at where is it? Yeah, I took a look at what happened on the Trey Pipkins play. So this is Actually, the sack on 3rd and 11, the first down line is at the 40. So this is about like 2.5 seconds into the play. And as you can see, there's no pressure that's going on here. Now, obviously, what's going to happen is Pipkins allows this guy to get inside, which forces Stick to scramble outside right, and then Norton lets his block go, and that's how he gets sacked. But in this case, this is where the idea that sacks are QB stat comes into play. If Stick just throws it to, I believe this is either Neighbors or Sokol right here. I think it's a Sokol. I mean, he might not get the first down, but he doesn't take the sack, and they're still generating positive yardage instead of moving back, right? So, sometimes I understand how easy it is to just blame the offensive line, but Stick had a guy open. He could have hit the dig route coming across the middle, which it could have been picked off, but if he threw it maybe lower and on point, they could have got the first down. So yes, Pipkins didn't do a great job of holding his block, but at this point in time, Stick should have got rid of the ball. And I don't really think it was all on Pipkins and Norton for the sack. Okay, let's go back to Twitter. So again, that was QB comparison. Now let's talk about some notable stats I found from the game on Saturday. So the first thing I really loved, and I mentioned this in the live stream, on 8 first down plays that the Chargers had in the first quarter with their first team offense, Daniel, T. Billy, Palmer, Guyton, the Chargers threw it 7 of those 8 times. And mind you, the only time they ran the ball was on 1st and goal. So you can kind of give them a pass for that. It's just showing how aggressive they're going to be. It's showing that they want to be a data-driven team. Passing, I've talked about it all summer. Passing is more efficient than running. So it's better to pass on early downs and give Justin Herbert easier 3rd down situations. Or you might not even get to 3rd down at all if you pass the ball instead of running the ball. Now, average time to throw, Daniels was 2.32 and Sticks was 2.77. This is more, I would say this is a little more scheme based, but also Daniel made a couple of checks at the line where he threw like a quick swing pass to T. Billy. He had a quick slant to Josh Palmer. So those are the type of things that we want to see. Actually, let me fix that. Yeah, what we need to see from Stick. Holding onto the ball too long. You kind of want to bring this number down just a little bit, but again, it could be scheme based. It could be more on the play caller. Chargers allowed 13 pressures. They forced 10. It was 10. Sorry, it is 10. I thought I was like my mind jumbling. They missed 9 tackles. I heard Brandon Staley talk in the press conference like he was happy with their tackling. They did miss 9 tackles, which ranked 14th. But it isn't the worst thing in the world, especially since this is like their first live action tackling in game. Now, another thing I was super happy about, they went for it on 4th down twice, on 4th and 1, and I believe 4th and 2, and they converted both of them. And the great part about the 4th and 1 was it was on the first drive, and they easily could have taken the field goal, but Staley decided to go for it. In his press conference, he said the director of analytics guy is in his ear, giving him the probabilities to go for it, to not go for it, which is awesome to hear, which really just shows how forward thinking he is and how progressive this organization hopefully is trending towards. Now, let's go on to the Niners. Again, this is the preseason. There isn't a ton of stuff to really go into because, it's only one game. So a 1-game sample size isn't the best thing to always look at, but nonetheless, I got you guys. Let's start off with the obvious, Trey Lance, right? The crown jewel of the Niners draft class, traded 2 firsts to go up and get him. Now, I'm assuming everyone saw that 80-yard touchdown pass, which is all great. It was awesome to see. The arm talent is crazy on that guy with the athleticism. But, after that, he didn't really have that good of a day. He only completed 4 more passes, and he ended up going 5 for 16, right? And so his EPA per play turned out to be a negative 0.166, which was actually the worst out of any quarterback drafted in the first round. So, looking at Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Fields, and Jones, Lance had the worst day statistically per EPA per play out of all 5 quarterbacks, which is definitely interesting to see. I don't know if this is going to continue when he plays the Chargers this weekend, but he didn't really have the best day outside of that 80-yard completion. But that 80-yard completion should be in Brandon Staley's mind. And remember, his whole goal in building a too high safety defense is to stop the deep pass. So I doubt that we'll see that kind of leak in the secondary, which the the Chiefs had this past weekend. But it is important to keep note. So Lance's PFF grade was a 49, and he did take 4 sacks, which brings me to their offensive line, because I mentioned in the live stream, I didn't really see too much out of Uchenna Nwosu and Kyler Fackrell. Fackrell a little more, he did a little bit better than Nwosu, but I felt like Chris Rumpf was really the best edge rusher of the day. So the Niners O-line actually allowed 5 sacks last game. They ended up with a 59.2 team pass blocking grade, and they allowed 12 pressures, and 4 of them came from Aaron Banks, who is a guard from Notre Dame, who they selected in the 2nd round. So we don't know if Justin Jones, Jerry Tillery, Cortez Broughton are all going to play, but this is the game for them to really show that, okay, if they're given a one-on-one matchup, which is what Staley is trying to create, he's trying to create one-on-ones for every single one of his players when they're rushing the passer. If they do get a one-on-one against this interior offensive line, can they convert? Can they pressure the quarterback? And can they turn those pressures into sacks? And that, to me, is what I'm going to be watching, especially if those 3 guys play. And obviously, Uchenna and Kyler Fackrell are going to be big pieces also. Now, how did the Niners defensive line play? They forced 4 sacks. Eddie Vanderdoes and Jordan Willis were 2 of the guys who had a couple of the highest grades. Jordan Willis totaled 3 pressures, so I would say he's the guy to watch out for. I don't think we're going to see Nick Bosa, D Ford, Arik Armstead, DJ Reed. I don't really think we're going to see those guys, just because the Niners injury history is pretty bad, and they've already suffered some pretty serious injuries. And Nick Bosa just got cleared literally today, the day I'm recording, which is Monday. So I really don't think we're going to see any of the top tier edge rushers from the Niners, but nonetheless, it is good to see the defensive line. Their coverage, I was going to talk about it, but I didn't really feel like there was too much info on it. They only played, like 4. Yeah, they only went against Mahomes for like 3 plays and 2 dropbacks. So, when you're going against the Chiefs backups, there's nothing really to tell. A couple of their guys, Demorder Lenore, I don't know if I'm saying that right. He's the guy from Oregon. He was the guy that graded out the best per PFF. Again, I don't want to use PFF grading for every single thing, but it is nice to kind of have a baseline of what the Niners could look like on paper and some of the stats from last game. And, real quick, if we just want to run through where they ranked in the graphs that I showed earlier for the Chargers. So if we go back to the team tiers, they pretty much had like an above average offense, which is kind of inflated by Trey Lance's, or slightly below average offense, which is inflated by Trey Lance's 80-yard pass. They did have a pretty solid defense against the Chiefs on Saturday. If we look at their offensive breakdown, okay, there we go. If we look at their offensive breakdown, yes, like I said, they were below average when it came to passing the ball, above average when it came to rushing the ball. And like I said, this EPA per pass is likely inflated due to the 80-yard pass by Trey Lance. If we go to their defense, they're right here. So they were really good when it came to stopping the pass. They didn't necessarily have the best day stopping the run, but I do believe the Chiefs actually only had 14. No, that's a different team. I'm sorry. So yeah, really good at stopping the pass, not so good at stopping the run. So hopefully guys like Roundtree, Kelly, we don't know if Justin Jackson's going to play, and then Bradwell should have pretty solid games, especially if guys like Matt Filer and Odi Abushi play this weekend. Okay, so again, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. So again, we recap the Rams. That's going to be the first part of this video. And then the Rams game from what the Chargers did, that was the first part of the video. The second part of the video is previewing what the 49ers look like in week 1 and how the Chargers could possibly attack them from the interior pass rush and in the run game with the offense, which is 2 things I'm probably going to be watching very closely this Sunday. So that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to leave any comments for any things you want me to go over in my next preview for week 3. And with that, as always,